about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right, guys, we are back on Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Daliah, 1-877-DOCDALI. So I got back this weekend. I had taken my mom to Israel. She had always wanted to go, and she's in her 80s. And I knew it was going to be a trek. It was rough. It was a very, very rough trip on both of us, especially since she and I don't get along. But I'm glad we did it. It's just there's a lot of things you need to think about when you travel internationally with a senior, or just travel in general with a senior. And I think I had prepared as good as I could, but it was still kind of rough. First and foremost, Israel, again, I think I've been there now 3 times. The people are amazing, but it's different. Ever since the Hamas massacre, it's different. You can see the country is in a state of mourning. You see the pictures of the hostages, and you're hoping that they're still alive and they're not suffering. And so you're praying, and you don't want to enjoy yourself when you're there, because you know there are people that are suffering, and you want the war to end. You know you're at war. There's constant war. There were some ballistic missiles that came our way when we were there. We knew that would happen. Didn't even panic. It was really, I've been there before when there was, Israel is always in a constant state of war. So basically, you get the notifications. They tell you have 10 minutes to find shelter. Nobody in the restaurant got up until the last minute. Then everybody's like, all right, let's go to the kitchen. So, you find the reinforced walls, and you go where there's reinforced walls because there's not enough bomb shelters. But, my mom, not really used to that type of stuff. But she was calm, so as long as I looked calm, she was calm. And she handled that really, really well. But, when you travel with a senior, there's a few things you need to, realize, telling them to pack their medicines, making sure they have their passport, making sure you have money, in case there's an issue. We ran into even issues beyond that. One is she doesn't sleep well. And so every 2 hours, she would wake me up, either by rummaging around or having to go to the bathroom, or just waking me up because she thought she heard something or whatever. And so even though she might be sleep deprived, you're thinking, well, I can handle it as long as one of us sleeps. You don't sleep. So understand that when you travel with a senior, you might not get any sleep. Driving around Israel was like driving around New York, except worse, because people are speeding and there's bikes coming in. So when we're driving her around the country, for her to see Nazareth and see a Galilee and Tiberias and Haifa and all the others, we're almost getting into accidents because people are just speeding and running in front of you, etc. And then our car starts to smoke, and our rental car decides to smoke up. And so I tried contacting the rental car company. No one's around. Nobody could help us. They finally get us a tow truck the next day, but we're already on our way to the airport. And so those are things you have to realize. In America, you might be able to get roadside assistance right away, not in a foreign country, especially if it's the Sabbath, or if there's something else going on, or if the country's at war. It's more difficult. Another thing you need to also think about is, what is your medical plan? If, God forbid, your family member gets sick, are you going to leave them there? Are you going to stay? Are you going to be able to extend your stay? Of course, she starts to not feel well. And so, I had to make sure I knew where the nearest hospital was and what the backup plan was. And thank God she didn't have to be hospitalized. And thank God she was okay. But those are things you need to think about. A lot of people have reached out to me when they heard I was taking my mom on this trip, going, I think I want to do that. Life is too short. And my mom is 80 or my mom is 70. But you kind of need to be aware that these are things that can pop up. And so are you prepared to stay in that country longer if you need to? There's other things I wanted to kind of talk about. and I know the segment is short. We got her an electric wheelchair, but not necessarily one of those big heavy ones because you can't lift it and carry it. So I had to find her a portable electric wheelchair. And Medicare doesn't cover it if it's for travel. So it's a pretty, costly thing. But there's a battery, and then there's a lithium battery, and then there's a process on a plane. So when you go to the airport and you think 2-3 hours is enough, you don't understand that, one, if your senior relative wants to talk to security, that adds extra time. And then on top of that, to kind of deal with the chair and all that. The sites, the biblical sites and the historic sites are amazing. But if somebody can't walk or their chair can't handle cobblestone, if you're trying to go through the old city of Jaffa, Jaffa is like one of the oldest ports in the world. You can't go with a senior, if you can't find parking, So it was a good trip, and I'm glad I took her. But if you're thinking, well, I'm going to be able to take them to, to see the sepulcher of Christ and the Christian section of Jerusalem, and then go see the city of David and go to the old city, and it's not easy. Another thing that your senior relative might do is talk to strangers. So when strangers were coming up trying to give us pitches, one said I was being rude because I said no toda, like no thank you, and they're like, well, that was rude, and I said no toda, no thank you. They said, no, you act like you're walking away from me. You're acting like I want to attack you, and I'm like, I just don't want to continue conversing with you. I said no thank you when you approached me, and so when you're in a foreign country. And then your relative wants to, well, let's have a conversation so we don't look rude. Those are obviously things that could be a concern. When people pitch you, oh, we could give you a cart, we could take you here, we'll do this for you. And they're like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. You need to also kind of keep them in check and make sure they understand that, what might sound like a good idea because you think you're in a beautiful, safe country might not always be the safest thing. So overall, it was a good trip. It was exhausting. I'm really sleep deprived. Now I love my mom, but if you are going to travel with a senior, make one hell of a checklist, all right? And maybe rethink it. 1-877 Doc Daliah. Don't go away.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
Hi, it's Mark Falter, host of the Financial Fitness Show. I strongly believe that no one should ever pay 1 penny more in taxes than they are legally obligated. Unfortunately, for most hardworking Americans, this just isn't the case. Why? Because most people spend more time planning next weekend's getaway than trying to ensure they're going to pay less in taxes. My financial fitness team has put together some materials that I know are going to help you. It's the Tax Savings Kit. Tax Savings Kit includes 3 things: free tax analysis, top 10 ways to pay less in taxes, and an investor's guide to taxes. Now, how do you get it? Simple. 866-764-2635. Again, 866-764-2635. I'm Mark Falter. This is Financial Fitness, making personal finance profitable.
Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So while I was away, a lot of drama, yeah, and I find out when I'm away that Jimmy Kimmel's show had been canceled indefinitely. And when I first heard of the story, it was a little bit skewed because what I originally heard was he was expressing his political beliefs, right, which we all are allowed to do, and the show canceled him. And this was his personal political beliefs. And I'm like, wait a second here, really? Yeah, we're canceling people for their political beliefs. You have a right in your personal time. You know, I mean, we don't want you spreading hate, racism, bigotry. But if you want to tweet or you know, I mean, we have the First Amendment, and in the media, we're very, very protective of our First Amendment rights. We definitely defend those among us who, you know, want to be Republican or want to be Democrat or want to be independent. You know, America is not a fascist regime. We are supposed to be of multiple parties and a diverse thought. But then what shocked me was it was because he was making comments about MAGA and Charlie Kirk's assassination on his show. Now, I kind of was like, doesn't he do a comedy late night show? And then I was like, oh, was he fired because he's not doing comedy and his show isn't funny and he's losing ratings? Or was he fired because he took a political stand? And so I'm sure many of you saw the clip where he actually does, you know, I mean, he actually does go into politics a lot on his show, pretty deeply. And, he was talking about how, let me see if I could find the exact quote here. He said, the MAGA gang are desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. He said, in between the finger pointing, there was grieving. Then he goes into some comedy about where they interviewed President Trump, and Trump was talking about the construction of the ballroom. And so he says, I guess the fourth stage of grief is construction. So then he goes into some humor. But the first part of it was not funny at all. And so we have this big debate where we don't want to cancel people for their political beliefs. You should be able to, believe this is America, and this is what people died to fight for. But then also, if you have a job to do, like let's say you're supposed to teach third grade math, and you're up there in front of the kids talking about, Charlie Kirk and MAGA, and, when is it you're supposed to do your job? And I'm sure parents would have a problem with somebody who's supposed to be teaching and doing that job, going off about MAGA or going off about Charlie Kirk. You got a job to do, you do that job. And so Jimmy Kimmel's job is, I thought, late night comedy. If his job is a political show, then he's doing a political show. Then that's his job. But from what I understand, he doesn't do both sides. If with the FCC, I believe you're supposed to have, I forget the terminology, and I apologize about that, where there's supposed to be a balance, unless, of course, that's what you're advertising your show to be. Like The View. The reason why The View gets a lot of criticism is, are you showing all sides, or are you only showing one side? Like The Five on Fox. They do show both sides, but the majority of it is right-leaning. With The View, the majority of it is left-leaning. But again, if those are political shows, they get more leeway. And so when I heard this, I was like, I don't want to see a comedian because there's we have a lot of passion about comedians being able to do their skits and do their thing without, being canceled. But then I was like, wait a second, is this his personal or is this his show? And if that's a show, and his show is losing ratings and people don't want to hear it. Remember, when you go off on Trump, people who don't like Trump don't want to hear about Trump. People who like Trump don't want to hear you go off about Trump. And so we've seen time and time again, it's not very popular. Stephen Colbert, talented guy, but his show had Adam Schiff as a guest. Nancy Pelosi. That's not late night comedy. That's not it's, if you're a political show, then yeah, you're going to have political guests on. But obviously his show didn't do well. And so, I am a firm believer in freedom of speech and our First Amendment rights. And if you have somebody in Hollywood who wants to be Democrat, who wants to be Republican, they shouldn't be fired and canceled, which has sadly happened. Where you hear, so many actors say, look, I supported the Republicans and I couldn't get a job. I can't work in Hollywood. I mean, that stuff has to stop. We need to, on all sides, have the protection to be able to feel how you want to feel. And that's why a lot of these actors start then producing their own shows like Clint Eastwood and Adam Sandler. And because they're like, look, I need to be able to, I need to be able to live in America and be free and do what I want to do, and not necessarily lose my career. And sadly, we've seen people lose their career. But on the other end, if what you're doing is not necessarily what the network is hiring you for, and if all late night comedy is now all politics and very one-sided and not equal, like NPR. They're bored, not very diverse, very, one-sided, then the network may take action. I mean, so like with my show, if I want to sit and talk about Toe Jam all the time, it's my First Amendment right, but the show's probably not going to last because people don't want to hear about Toe Jam. So I think there is a real easy answer to this. And I get there's a lot of people in Hollywood that are anti-right and they want to express themselves. When I have a bad day, I express myself on air. It's a wonderful sort of way to cope, but I have listeners. And I need to understand what is it that the listeners want to hear. When you have a young father, of two who was murdered, publicly, and everybody saw such horrific carnage that happened to Charlie Kirk, and he is idolized by many for bringing back debate and discourse and college and critical thinking and he God and faith. You gotta read the room. And so we're going to see more and more of this. And I hate to see the country divided, but if somebody was murdered, all right, we take a step back from the politics and we understand that we're humans and we appreciate the fact that this is a very solemn time and people are hurting, people are grieving, people are shocked by what they saw, and people are really nervous. That somebody could be assassinated for his political beliefs. That's scary stuff in America, in any country. But the media and Hollywood and late night shows, are taking it, to a different level. And when I was like, really, that was his comedy sketch? I get the construction part. I see how we tried to make that the fourth stage of grief where Trump was talking about construction. But I thought you're a late night show and there's supposed to be music and you're supposed to be interviewing Michael Jordan and Sinners or he was a great that was a great movie. And you're supposed to be interviewing actors, and all it seems to be is politics, politics, politics. And eventually these shows are not going to survive because people don't want to see that. I love the fact that there was football yesterday and there was very few politics. I think I mean, there might have been. I didn't listen. I didn't pay attention because I'm pretty sleep deprived right now. So I don't want to see anybody get canceled for their political beliefs. But the pressure that we have had on all sides as it pertained to, us, being supportive of Trump or being supportive of Biden, this has to stop. And if you are going to be doing a comedy show, I mean, stick to the comedy, because people don't think it's funny when you try to make jokes or go after somebody who was just assassinated. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So we are told that President Trump has an announcement as it pertains to autism. He had promised that he was going to reveal by September as much as they can on why autism rates have skyrocketed in the last few decades. Now I believe it's 1 in 31 children, which means almost 1 in every child in every classroom is on the autism spectrum disorder. And he had promised by September, the first September of his second presidential term, that he would reveal a root cause of autism and some hope in terms of treating it. Now, I thought that was a pretty optimistic and bold prediction and timeline, but it's interesting. What I don't have all the details, but we're getting some little flirtations of what he's going to be talking about. And one is the possible association of Tylenol products, acetaminophen in Europe, paracetamol products of women in pregnancy. This is not something new. Back in 2021, I talked to you about how there were studies going, look, Tylenol isn't 100% safe. It has been linked to some neurodevelopmental issues. And pregnant women do need to be cautious about using it. If you have a high fever, if you're in pain, it may be safer than other medications, but we might need to remind moms that there could be risk. When I was in training, Tylenol was considered a category A at the time, meaning no risk to animals, no risk to humans. And I remember hearing OBs say, you could pop that like candy, not going to hurt you or the baby. And I was like, are we 100% sure on that? And then they downgraded it over the past, I think, 20 some years to going, no, there could be some side effects. It's overall relatively safe, but there could be side effects. And then, doctors started to, and researchers looked at it more. And in a study back in 2021 in Nature Reviews Endocrinology, they did find an increased fetal risk of neurodevelopmental, reproductive, and urogenital disorders with acetaminophen use during pregnancy and urged patients to minimize exposures. And so this is nothing new that Tylenol might be a concern. Do I think that autism, which affects social communication, could affect somebody's athletic ability, somebody's social ability, somebody's communicative skills, their ability to have work, ability to learn, ability to potty train, depending on the end of, where they are on the spectrum. Do I believe that Tylenol is the root cause for this massive jump? I don't think it's the only cause. No. And again, I don't know exactly what Trump is going to be announced. We're being told that it's probably going to be about Tylenol use and how doctors should probably caution over use of it with pregnant women, which I agree with. I agree. Nothing should be considered, completely safe. Everything can have risks. But I do believe that autism might be caused by a variety of factors. And so it'll be interesting to see how they word it. If they say, oh, hey, we figured out why 1 in 31 children have it is all because of Tylenol, I don't think that would be an accurate statement. But if they say one of the possibilities of why we're having such a drastic jump is Tylenol, that is something that needs to be considered. We've been studying vaccines extensively. And the reason why vaccines have come up is when you look at autism rates skyrocket. What are we doing now differently than we did in the 60s and the 50s and we started vaccinating children, in the 60s, but not to the degree that we've been doing, with the 80s and 90s and 2000s. So somebody said, well, maybe that could be playing a role, even though studies have shown that vaccines do not cause autism. There are some studies looking at, do some children get a side effect that might be an encephalitis, and the encephalitis might cause symptoms that might be perceived as autism. So it's an evolving science. And I'm glad we've kind of moved on from a vaccine causes autism, because I don't agree with that statement at all. But I do think we do have to look at, what are we doing now differently? Is it our cell phones? Is it our diet? Is it advanced maternal age? One thing I noticed with my patients is when I had patients who had autistic children, I had asked them if they had fibroids. And many of these women said, yeah, I had fibroids throughout my pregnancy. And fibroids is a thickening and a benign growth within the uterine wall. And I noticed I noticed a higher incidence. This is just all anecdotally. This wasn't scientifically studied, where many of the women who had autistic children also had fibroids during pregnancy. Now, it could also be there might have been an older mom, because older women develop fibroids. So there could be other. But the point I'm trying to make is we don't know a root cause of autism. All we know is that the rates are skyrocketing. So we need to look at, what are we doing differently? What could we be exposing young kids to versus the fetuses to, or the pregnant women to, and see if there's a link. So it'll be interesting to see how they word it. Do I think Tylenol is the only cause? No. Do I think Tylenol can acetaminophen products play a role in neurodegenerative disorders of the fetus? Some studies have said yes. Is it enough to say that's our autism cause? I can't say. Now, another thing that is being floated, and again, I don't have, Trump hasn't spoken on this yet. But one thing we are being told that might also be brought up is a cancer treatment called leucovorin, which has a possible role in treating autism and improving outcomes. Now, this is a very fascinating topic, because it's, we in doctor circles, we've been speaking about it, but it's not anything that parents have easy access to. And we have been hoping that if we did identify a child with autism early, and you can, once you see them, not hit their milestones and not be as communicative and not engaging with their parent. I've been able to pick up on autism fairly early because, one, we have family members in our extended family that have autism. But when the child doesn't seem to really engage with mom and want to cuddle with mom and not having those same milestones, it's a concern that they may have a neurodegenerative disorder or something that might need some early intervention. And leucovorin is a treatment we use during cancer treatments that we believe can help with the folate, I believe, absorption in the brain. I don't know enough about leucovorin to talk about it yet because, again, I just got word that this is something that they are looking at as a potential treatment. I have heard that leucovorin is an off-label treatment for autism. They think that it could help deliver folate, which is vital in fetal development and childhood development and neurological development. And so if we figure out that one of the root causes is the brain being able to receive the necessary vitamin, and this can help bypass that, this could be very promising. But again, I haven't heard the announcement yet. Once we do, we'll be able to talk a little bit more about it on the next show. But that's supposed to be what's coming around the bend. 1-877 Doc Daliah. Don't go away. Hey guys, it's Dr. Daliah. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our fantasy football pocket guide for beginners found on Amazon or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
The cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American Magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive the stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.
Back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. So, Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk's company and its future has been in question, and it shouldn't be. Erica Kirk has been appointed to now lead the nonprofit. And the memorials that we have seen throughout, the country, in fact, in Israel, they were mourning him as well. When I was there last week, has been, very heartwarming. And I've heard, people, from all sides kind of, go back and forth. We should be doing more. Why are we doing so much? why are there so many memorials? And it just blows my mind how divided everybody is on this. You might disagree with somebody politically, but somebody was murdered, for their political beliefs. Every American should take a stand on that. In fact, the House had passed a resolution to honor Charlie Kirk, but there was a significant number of Democrats who voted against it. 95 Democrats supported the resolution, 58 voted against it, and then 38 abstained. And, these Charlie Kirk, whether you agreed with him politically or not, he represented many people of faith. He represented the many youth, younger voters who have really felt like they don't have a voice, that their vote doesn't count. He really energized college campuses to have debates, and even people who disagreed with them would go to these goes to the Turning Point USA programs to debate him and to discuss these issues with them. And so I'm not here to memorialize him. Again, he's I couldn't do the work he did justice, but and I didn't agree with everything he stood for, but he definitely was somebody who was driven by faith. Made young people realize that it is okay to have a different political thought from Hollywood, or from mainstream media, and it is okay to think critically, and it is okay to debate, and it is okay to be concerned about things not being fair and lack of free speech, and somebody advocating to take away your rights to protect yourself, and so when you see this back and forth, well, he was this and he was this, and I don't agree with him, and so we're not going to. I mean, the man was murdered. We honor the dead, and we honor those who died while they were doing something for other people, and to see the attitudes, and it's very, very frustrating, and it shows what, especially with people making fun of them. And I think there was like a high school student that was joking around, and I mean, really, we've really lost our humanity because we've let politics take over. In fact, people were accusing his wife of satanic symbols, and she was, while she was up there memorializing her husband and hugging Trump, she had the "I love you" sign language hand signal. Why? I mean, we really have some uneducated people here, not recognizing that and saying that she was trying to spread Satan's. I mean, what is going on here? Come on. And so, she's got to raise two kids without their daddy. She has the loss of her husband. She's a newly widow, and now she is going to be taking on Turning Point USA, which I think is actually going to be very therapeutic for her, and I think it is really going to energize. Really going to energize the movement, and I understand why we have politics, but I'm really disliking it. I'm really disliking how divided we have become. Now, it's getting to the point where we're so close to a civil war. We're having people advocate against democracy. I mean, we're having people advocate for cheating at these polls. We have coercion. We have bullying. We have people getting canceled for supporting one versus the other. Being called names and ridiculed, and when you're American, election day is supposed to be a big day. In fact, I think back east, you have. I think back east they take the whole week off. Don't they have multiple days? It's like a holiday. We celebrate the ability for us to be free and be able to vote and for us to be able to debate. Yeah, I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan. I know. It's been rough. You know, they're getting there. I don't know why we let go of Micah Parsons and Amari Cooper and all that, but I don't know. Jerry Jones has his ideas, but being a Dallas Cowboy fan, you are going to make fun of other teams. When somebody says Dallas sucks or Dallas got their ass kicked, we'll respond back. I mean, I'd like to respond back with, your team sucks, but I kind of can't, especially when they're doing better than my team. But we appreciate football. We're grateful, and we actually get along because we both have something in common. We like football, and we love the fact that we have the freedom to watch football. That's how I look at politics. You may be right or left. I may be right or left. We're going to vote. We're going to debate. But this is really, really cool that we don't have to fear being shot or being, for our political beliefs. And that's not what America is turning into. People celebrated Charlie Kirk being assassinated. Why? Because they put politics first. They need to win. People are advocating that there never be another Republican in office again or another Democrat in office again. Well, then that's fascism. If all you want is your party to win over and over and over and over again, I mean, I get it. I want Dallas, to always make it to the Super Bowl, but I understand they won't. And if they don't, they don't. I'm used to it already. But you can't just always have one team that always wins. But that's not what people are advocating for. People are advocating for what isn't American. And celebrating people dying who were not of their political party. That's some frightening stuff. And it's getting worse. I don't know how it's going to get better. And the thing is whoever thought that assassinating Charlie Kirk, and I think Kash Patel and the FBI is looking into this being, I don't think it was just one person. I mean, I think there was a plan in place, which is horrifying to think that's happening. But I wouldn't be shocked seeing where the country is going. And what that just did is it motivated people to fight for the true values of democracy, the true American values, and to fight for humanity. Somebody was making fun of how there was only 90 to 100,000 people at Charlie Kirk's memorial. Well, that's all the stadium could hold. Trust me, there were many, many more that wanted to be there. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by Financial Fitness Show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.